What's up, y'all?
Yeah,
Welcome to the Young and Married podcast.
let's go.
We're your hosts, Jen and Mark,
Let's go.
and
I'm
we are
excited.
here to help you thrive
Uh-huh.
in your marriage,
Yeah.
but also thrive in your pursuit of marriage if you're single.
Let's go. I'm excited about that because I feel like wherever you are in this season of life, this podcast is really going to hit you. And we know a ton of people that are married and young and trying to work on their marriage, but we also know a lot of people that are single and they're trying to do this thing right. So, everything you need to know about relationships, dating, marriage, all that stuff,
It's all here.
it's all gonna be right here.
And if you don't want anything that has advice laced with the word of God and Jesus, this might not be the space for you. We
Yeah.
want you to stick around, but just know Jesus is going to pop up in this content.
Yeah, so you starting already.
I just want them to know what it is.
Yeah, you just got to lay the foundation, put it out there, and say, hey, faith is gonna be the substratum and the foundation
Absolutely.
of this stuff because we feel like if God is at the center, then it will be all right. But, we've also learned, before we get into today's topic, we've also learned that, sometimes God isn't enough if you don't do it right.
Okay. Ruffling feathers on the first episode of Young and Married podcast.
Yeah. So, because there are marriages out there without God that are successful
Yeah,
and
there are
doing
people
well.
that are non-believers. that-
Yeah, so let's not just act like God makes everything work perfectly and there be no issues.
Yeah, I mean, God definitely at the center doesn't mean you don't have issues, but we believe God at the center is just the best way to
Right.
build any healthy marriage.
Right. Yep.
All right. But for today's topic, I saw something interesting online because I saw an article that stated that Judge Mathis's wife was filing for divorce after 39 years of marriage. And people were going bananas in the comments. I actually, because society is so crazy now, I actually thought people were going to be in the comments saying things like, go girl, find your peace, however long it takes. People were actually upset in the comments. People were saying after 39 years, one guy said, at this point, just y'all sleep in separate rooms for a day or two and come back together, because people were taking it personal. Like, we know Judge Mathis for
Right.
his life. We don't know their life.
Yeah.
The podcast is not about that article, but I saw a comment under the posting of that article where a man said, see, this is what I'm talking about. This is why men are not afraid of marriage. We're afraid of divorce. He was like, men are afraid of divorce more than they're afraid of marriage. And that struck me. And I said, Mark, we have to talk about this because that's very interesting. It's a very interesting comment that he literally was like, because it's Judge Mathis's wife, according
Right.
to the article that filed for divorce.
Yeah.
And he said, random guy online said, this is what I'm talking about. Men are more afraid of divorce than they are of marriage. And it kind of struck a chord with me because I don't know this guy, but it made me think maybe he's one of the guys out there that's like, I'm not being non-committal because I'm trying to be for the street.
Right.
I'm not being non-committal because I feel like nobody's good enough for me.
Okay.
He's basically saying, but as a man, I can tell you, men don't fear marriage. We fear divorce. And I thought that's interesting because we seem to live in a culture and society where people really do seemingly get divorced left and right.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, Mark, what is it behind? And this was a black guy, but
Right.
but he didn't even just say black men. He just said men.
Right.
So what is it, do you think, generally speaking, about men that, regardless of race or culture, in today's world would make them more afraid of divorce than they are of marriage? And the first thing is, do you even think that's a true statement?
Yes, I think there is some truth to that.
Okay.
But I also believe it needs to be unpacked.
Yes.
Right? There is some truth to that. I can understand what he's saying from the male perspective, the male mentality, the male
Okay.
brain, because the thing about men that is important to note here is that men are afraid of being alone.
Oh, okay.
And because we don't always show our feelings, to show our emotions, and we walk around hard,
Right.
tough, like nothing bothers us, one of the biggest fears of men is being alone.
I did not know that.
Absolutely.
So some of y'all single men on watching this podcast, what is the problem?
Well, it's different levels of alone.
Because
Because
I
you
know my
could be single.
sisters are like, well, if you're afraid of being alone, here I am.
No, because he's single,
Yeah.
but yet he's not alone. So a man that's single can get through life because they fill their life with different things that helps them not feel alone,
Oh, okay.
right? Because the fear of marriage, that level of commitment is more scary than being single. So they just pack their life with friends,
Okay.
family, families either, significant others here and there,
Gotcha.
to keep their ego intact, to keep their, bravado there. So they're single, but they're not alone. The biggest fear of a man is alone. So if he can not be alone and be single, he'll choose that. If he can not be alone and it means that he'll get married, he'll choose that.
Okay.
But for a lot of guys, they're afraid of the consequences of taking that level of commitment and it going wrong.
Wow.
So, because you said, hey, God is going to be the foundation of this podcast,
Yep.
if you go back into the scriptures, one of the first things that God says about man is that it's not good for man to be
Yeah,
alone.
because they forget things. They don't make doctor's appointments, dental appointments. They don't know when you're out of creamer, agave.
Okay.
I mean, men. God, I agree with you, sir.
Okay.
You know what you're saying.
Okay. So that's not what I was really referring to.
Okay.
You just go put us out there like that. Yeah, we forget things, but it's not that we forget. It's just that we don't want to have to worry about remembering. So why would I remember
forget,
if
we
I
just don't
have you? Why would I remember if I have you?
Y'all. This
Like,
is why I have to make sure I'm
yo.
up on
Why?
anti-aging fruits and vegetables because I have to remember so many things. But
No.
yes, but to not distract from your point, which
Yeah.
I've already sort of done. But you're saying, back to what you're saying, God did say from the very beginning, it's not good for man to be alone.
It's not.
Yeah.
That's one of the first defining characteristics of man that God gives.
Yeah, that's true.
And we have glossed over that. Or we have interpreted that as, okay, if it's not good for him to be alone, then the answer to that must be marriage.
Oh.
The answer to that must be marriage. But there's so many levels to that word alone
Oh, wow.
that some men may feel like my answer isn't really marriage because if I do marriage and I make a mistake, I'm going to end up alone. And that's not what I want. That's what I'm trying to avoid. So I'll take singleness
Wow.
over the consequences of a divorce that leaves me in a world called alone.
Well,
That's what I don't want.
But that's so interesting because you were saying, there's different layers to alone and we
Yes.
assume it's marriage. And I think that we assume that because in Genesis, when God says that, he then immediately does, though, make Eve
Yep.
creates her out of Adam's rib.
Yep.
And he makes a woman for him because he does follow it up by saying, so I will make a helpmeet for him.
Right.
He didn't say, I will give you Google,
Yeah.
or I will give you a sports car, or I will give you.
okay.
He said,
Okay.
you need a woman.
Okay. Because you're saying, since this is Young and Married podcast, then why are we glossing over the fact that God's solution to man being alone
Right.
was his wife?
Right. Because
Right.
we are here to help.
But listen, and I'm not even discounting that.
Okay.
I'm just saying between Adam and 2024, a lot has happened.
True. Okay.
So guys are out here like, okay, well, look at the odds. Look at the statistics.
Yeah.
Because men are very logical.
Right, right.
So we're like, what are the odds that this is going to go the way that I want it to go? I'm planning it to go. So I'm afraid of divorce.
I gotcha. Yeah.
All right. And so that's why we're doing this podcast, because we're like, you can be young and pursue marriage. You can be young, have a goal for marriage. You can be young trying to get married. You can be young, work on your marriage so that you don't have to fear divorce.
Correct. Correct. And I think perhaps our culture and society also has put too much emphasis on divorce being a solution,
Okay.
that we don't understand that not everything, not every challenge is divorce worthy.
Okay.
But I think this society and culture, see, this is why the Bible says to not be conformed to this world.
Yeah.
But to be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Why? Because Western culture and society makes you have the mindset that marriage is just a piece of paper.
Right.
But marriage is a covenant.
Yep.
And God takes covenants seriously. There are exceptions to breaking the covenant of marriage, I believe. Like we always tell couples,
Yeah.
abuse on any form
Yep.
is unacceptable.
Right.
Repeated infidelity.
Yeah.
God provides a way out for that. I mean, not even repeated, infidelity, period. He
Yeah.
provides a way out if you want that way out.
Absolutely.
But I do believe that there are enough marriages out there that actually probably were salvageable, but society has said to you, it is just a piece of paper. Also, some women are on social media making it seem like divorce parties are all the rage. I will never in my life have a divorce party. Mark my words. Why? Because I'm not getting a divorce, number one. And number two, you're out here like, oh, she looked fly at her divorce party. She's fly, but she's also alone.
Yeah. I'm still laughing because you had to clarify and you were like, not just repeated infidelity.
Yeah.
Because you basically saying, well, you could play with me if you want to.
Well, I wasn't talking to you.
You're like, yeah, okay, you can play if you want to. Let's clarify this.
Oh, God.
Infidelity, okay? And I'm with you because divorce is a consequence
Yeah.
of marriage gone wrong.
But it's
And
not
it's-
always an indicator of a marriage that wasn't salvageable.
Correct. And it shouldn't be necessarily seen as, and I think that's where this guy was coming from. He's like, divorce isn't a good thing,
Exactly.
right?
Right.
Divorce is a consequence, whether you're getting out of a bad situation and now you can do life better.
Right.
It's still a consequence of that decision, that marriage, that union, and it not working. And I think if we keep divorce in the box of a consequence, even though it may be an exit, it's still a consequence of something that transpired, then we can understand what this guy is trying to say, right? Because
Yeah.
he's like, hey, I don't want a divorce.
Correct.
And
Which I actually respected, right?
You can respect
Even though I
that.
don't know him personally, I don't know his background or anything.
Yeah.
Just the fact that he said, men are not afraid of marriage.
Right.
It's a fear of divorce that is higher than our fear of marriage. I said, hey, I don't know this guy from Adam, but I can respect the fact that he was saying, he wasn't even saying I'm anti-marriage. He was simply saying, I'd rather just not even fail and
Yeah.
get a divorce.
right.
So that's more my fear than it is settling down with a wonderful woman.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that some of the another problem with that way of thinking though is that if your fear is driven by the negative or the consequence, then it never produces health in your decision making. So, for instance, if you're like, "Hey, I'm gonna go to the gym every day because I'm afraid of getting fat," my fear is that I'm gonna be fat and I can't ride a roller coaster. I'm afraid because I can't get on Velocicoaster at Universal because we were just there.
Yes.
And
Oh boy.
no, I'm gonna just leave it there. We were just there, and your fear should never be around the negative or the consequence of it because it doesn't really push you to health.
Yeah.
So you don't
That's good.
work out because you're afraid of getting fat.
Right.
You work out because you want to be healthy.
Right.
You don't love God because you're afraid of going to hell.
Right.
You love God because you want to go to heaven and be with him.
Right.
And so
And
this
there is a difference.
there's a huge difference because
Yeah.
it's the motive.
Yeah.
It's the motive behind it. So if you ever venture into marriage and you're afraid of divorce, or you venture into marriage and you're afraid of being alone,
Right.
you're going into marriage for the wrong reasons.
Correct. Absolutely. Because marriage is about, I believe that I cannot fully complete my God-given purpose without this person
Yeah.
in my life as my spouse.
Yeah.
And so I know for a fact that I wouldn't even be where I am today if I wasn't married to you, because you push me in ways that I probably wouldn't push myself. Not that I am lazy or a sit back person,
Right.
but there are ways that you have stretched me and caused me to go after things that maybe before I would not have.
Right.
And I also truly believe that my God-given purpose fully blossoms if I'm married to you.
Yeah.
It's not about I got married because I was afraid that if I didn't marry you, I'd be a spinster, right? I didn't marry you because I felt like, oh my gosh, if I don't marry him, I'll never have another shot at marriage. I felt like but my person is you. And in order to have the life that God wants me to have, I have to marry you.
Right.
And so my love for you was there, but I didn't marry you out of a fear of being single.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing is that we got married when we were really young. And one of the benefits of that is that you're not contaminated by life and experience
True.
to the extent where you may post something like what this guy said,
Yeah.
and now you've seen too much.
Yeah.
There is a blessing to being ignorant to a certain degree.
Right.
And you're young, you're vibrant, you want to do life together, you want to travel,
Right.
you want to live with this person, you want to
Yeah.
be with this person. There's a level of grace that comes with that. Instead of waiting till you're 50, now you're set in your ways, you got your own money, you have your own investments. It's not easy for you to share that.
Right.
You don't want to share your belongings. You don't want to
Right.
share a closet space. You don't
Right.
even want to share your cereal.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You don't want to share anything.
Right.
And so I'm interested in the guy that made this comment. What is his age? He sounds to me like he's older.
Well, from his profile picture, if I can be honest, Mark, he looked like he could be somewhere in our age bracket.
Okay.
He actually didn't, from his profile picture, he actually looked like he could be a guy in his early 40s.
Well, but the thing though is on the spectrum of marriage,
Oh.
that's not necessarily old,
Right.
but, and I know people are getting married older today, but you've seen a lot by 40.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
You've been through a lot
Yeah.
by 40.
Right. That's true. You've experienced life.
Yeah.
And so even though we all hope we have at least another 40 more to go, you're right. Even if God's going to give you 80 years on earth, he's already lived half his life if he is in his 40s.
Yeah.
So
he's already lived life, and so he's probably had enough experiences to be like, you know what? I would get married, but I'm afraid
Yeah.
of divorce. And so I think, we've unpacked a few things. The other layer to this is he's looking at these ladies
Right.
in the street and saying to himself, I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure that this is going to work because,
Well, then you don't get a lady that's for the streets.
well,
Not every woman is for the streets.
I'm not saying she's for the streets. She's in the streets. She's just single, right? So
Okay.
that's how I term it, right? That's
Okay.
what I'm thinking, is that just the ladies that are out here, the
Okay.
pool from which he has to select. He's looking at it and saying, there's a lot more women than men, but I not so sure that this is gonna go well.
So then what is it about the ladies of today, in your opinion, that would scare a man?
There's one word
Uh-oh.
that begins with an I.
Uh-oh.
Independent.
Oh. Okay. Well, this segment sounds like it's for my single sisters.
Independent. And he, in his age bracket, he may feel like these ladies are too independent for us to merge, be married, be successful. I'm afraid of divorce.
Oh, wow.
I'm afraid of divorce.
So, I mean, clarify then for our single sisters, because I know the way you're wired. You also personally didn't want someone that was the total opposite and just couldn't do anything for herself or on
Right.
her own.
Right.
So I guess what you're saying is a guy doesn't mind you being successful. He doesn't mind you being a go-getter, but anytime it gets to a level where what you're giving off is, I don't really need you, then he's like, well, then don't have me then. Is that what it is?
Because he's afraid of being alone.
Oh, okay.
He's afraid of being alone. So he's like, if you're out here so independent, you don't need me, I'm going to be left alone. I'm afraid of divorce.
Yeah.
And there's a level of independence that a woman has that will absolutely scare a guy.
Wow.
I'm terrified because you don't really need me. This idea of not needing a man.
Yo, yeah, I hate that too. I'm a female and I hate when women make those types of statements. It makes me cringe because the way God wired us, we need each other.
Yeah.
So I hate as a woman to hear women say, I don't need a man.
Yeah.
Because it'll be those same women that'll say, God, why am I not married? You just told him you don't need a man. You just said you were married to Jesus. So go ahead and be married to him.
Yeah.
I cringe. I'm like, ladies, stop saying you don't need a man. I saw this one woman post a meme that I thought was so good.
Yeah.
She was like, when y'all out here saying you don't need a man, I shut up because I need mine. I said, yes. And she's probably like me, happily married for over 15 years.
Right.
And she's like, oh, that's y'all. I need my man.
Listen, it's crazy. It's crazy. And so you can't be on one side of the spectrum that says, I'm independent, I don't need a man, but yet you're like, why aren't I married yet? How come I'm not married yet?
Correct.
And so that's like, this guy is thinking about all this when he's writing this comment.
Yeah.
And it comes out in one little phrase that says men aren't afraid of marriage, they're afraid of divorce.
Yeah.
And people are blown away, like, what are you talking about? This is crazy. But it's like all of his experiences, all of what's going on in culture has gone right down into one phrase. And it's amazing how men will speak in these parables. So women aren't the only ones that are complicated.
We know.
I'm going to say it again. Women aren't the only ones that are complicated.
Listen, for years we as women have been accused of being the only complex species out there.
Now, y'all, if we were going to say which one is more complicated,
Men.
women.
No, because I feel like
Women.
it's very simple. I go back to the classic example. If you're going to the store and say, can I get you anything? And I say no, then you don't come back empty-handed.
Please unpack that. Because in that statement and answer right there is a lot of complication.
If you're going to the store and you say, do you want anything? And I say, I don't think so. Still bring me something back, because you're going to the store and you see my favorite snack all around you, just bring it back just in case. And then if I don't want it, I won't eat it. But at least I'm like, oh, you brought me a snack anyway. And I probably will eat it, even though I didn't want anything. But I understand the women who say, I can't believe my husband went to the store, didn't get me anything, even though I said I think I'm good.
Okay.
I just want you to still be like, you know what? I want to make sure you're good, so I'm gonna just get it anyway.
Right. And so for the men out there that have learned what a woman really wants and needs, and that when she says no, she means yes. And then we go and we get the snack. And then you come home, or we come home, and you're like, why did you do that?
Oh, not me. I'm
Why
not gonna
did
say
you
no to a
waste
snack.
money? Why? I told you I didn't want anything. That see, that's when we start to say, okay, which one is it? What day is it? What month is it? What year? Where am I living? Like, what world am I in?
Were you in the Twilight Zone?
Absolutely, because I figured it out that we need to go in the opposite way. But then you flip it again. So we're like, when do we know?
Listen. For me personally, when you bring me stuff home, I'm actually not that woman that's gonna say, Mark, why did you buy that? I'm be like, yes, thank you. And then the last thing I'll say, guys, is that the key to a woman's heart is flats, not drumsticks. We don't want flats. Somebody said if flats are your favorite or you eat only flats, you're high maintenance. I said, well, then call me uppity then, because I'm
Why?
doing flats. I don't even know how we got here.
I feel like you're trying to tell me something through this episode.
What, that I want
I'm
some
about to go to the
wings?
store. I need to go to the store because
I will eat wings any day. Seriously.
listen, we've been married a long time, and I think you're trying to tell me something. But that's what I'm saying. This level of complication. That men are complicated, but women are far more
Boy.
complicated, because if I say don't get me anything, if you get me something, I'm gonna be upset, because I'm gonna be like, you're wasting the funds. You're wasting the funds. And so that's why I think that, you know, when it comes to what a man is saying,
Yeah.
we may have some things to unpack there.
Yeah.
But we're a little bit more linear, a little bit more direct, a little bit more logical.
Yeah.
And we won't take the windy way home.
Yeah.
And we're going to say, the problem is I'm afraid of divorce. And like, in other words, I don't think you're going to act right. I don't think you're going to act right.
Oh no.
This guy is like, I'm not afraid of marriage.
But it takes
I'm afraid of
two.
divorce, because I don't think if we get married, you're going to act right. That's what he's saying.
But it takes two. He doesn't realize that he's also culpable for what happens in the marriage.
Absolutely. But he's not really focused on himself in this case. He's like, hey, I'm worried that you're going to do something that's not going to line up with what I need, and things are going to go left, and it's not going to work out. It's going to end up in divorce, and I'm going to be alone. I don't want all that. And like, there's so many levels to this, Jen.
There's a lot.
There's
in
so
this
many levels.
one comment.
You know what men hate? Do you know what men hate?
What do men hate?
Thank you. I was waiting for you to.
Oh, I thought you were just going to tell us.
No.
Okay.
Drama.
Oh yeah, you've told me that before.
We hate drama, please.
But
We
I don't
hate
even like drama, and I'm a female.
Right.
So
And so, what is divorce?
it's drama.
Come on. Divorce is drama emotionally. Divorce is drama financially.
Yeah.
Divorce is drama in my family, because now I don't know what's going to happen with my kids. And we just hate drama. So tell me now if this is going to end in divorce, is what guys say. So you know what? We're afraid of divorce because we run from drama.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what that guy is saying.
Yeah.
And it took a whole podcast episode to really
even start
unpack.
unpacking. Yeah.
Yeah, to really talk about some of the things that guys think about. We're like, you know what? We could do marriage if we felt like marriage is going to be drama free. Not hardship free, not adversity free, but drama free.
Yeah. And I think then what ladies can unpack from this is that we're not saying you shouldn't work on being successful or independent, but there is a level, and maybe this is for another podcast, there is a level of independence you can show a man that starts to turn from attractive to unattractive, because that man starts to read, oh, she really doesn't need me. So she has me now, but she's also letting me know at the end of the day, she doesn't feel like I'm an asset to her life.
Yeah.
She doesn't feel like she needs me to accomplish anything, to see anything, to do anything. And so therefore, if anything goes left, she could walk out that door and I'll be alone.
Right.
But I also love what you said earlier in the podcast, Mark, and I think this is a great takeaway for the guys, that at the end of the day, there may be some hesitancy, there may be some trepidation centering marriage, but ultimately, anytime you live out of fear, you're not living in the healthiest form
Yeah.
of life that God would have for you.
Yeah.
So if you're a man, and we know not everyone's going to get married, but if you're a man that believes that God does have someone out there for you, but you've
Right.
just been fearful, you don't want to stay single out of fear. You want to get married in faith.
I like that. I like that. I like that because it will take faith.
Yeah.
It will take faith, and you're gonna have to leap into it. You won't have all of your questions answered.
Exactly.
There will be definitely unknowns, but we're here to tell you, man, you could be young and married
Yeah.
and living your best life, instead of being afraid and single and worrying about what's coming next.
Exactly.
So this has been a really good episode.
I think so.
I think this was dope.
So thank you, random guy on the internet, for giving us giving us a topic.
we see so many things.
Yeah,
When
we
it
could
comes
talk
to
about marriage
relationships.
all day, every day.
Absolutely, absolutely. So this has been a great episode, and we're praying, we're hoping, we're believing that it helped you wherever you are in life right now, whatever your relationship status is. We're praying that this episode really helped you. So this has been another episode of Young and Married, and we will catch you next time. Until then, take care.